Hey everyone, and welcome to Read This Now, the weekly webcast where Brad Gustafson and I share two books that we love and we think you should read when, Brad?
Right now.
Right this
How was
second.
that? Because in my mind, that felt really cool.
It
I
was
looked up
is
at.
really cool.
Okay. All
It
right.
it definitely had a high up on the coolness factor.
Oh, you're so generous. All right.
How
So
are
we're
you, my
talking
friend?
books,
How
right?
what you been reading?
Yeah. Lots of stuff. And I had a hard time picking what book. So I went with what like a feel-good book. Whenever I see picture books, I'm drawn to kind of an eclectic array. I like originality, but I also like warmth and
Yeah,
stuff that
sure.
kind of pulls you in. That's another thing that sometimes gets me. So here's one today, and I debated because it's a book about lemonade, and I'm like, well, it's getting a little chilly out here, but yet I drink
Hmm.
lemonade year round. It's a good book, so I just got to share it, even
That's
though
right.
there might not be any lemonade stands outside in Minnesota in the winter. Okay,
Okay, all right.
that's
Let's
my
hear it.
that's my disclaimer. Yeah, I think the coolest thing for me, and I'm gonna instead of just talking about the picture, I'll show the picture. I think the thing that drew me to this is it's based like these are real human beings. It's a real group of kids, and it's
Yeah.
co-authored by a kid and a student. Like she wrote it with her dad, I
Oh,
presume.
nice. I love it.
Yeah, and I just thought that it's really cool. And I'm picturing, I don't know this to be sure, but I'm assuming that each of the kids in their neighborhood that this story is about can look and say, that's actually me. And we did that adventure. And I
Hmm.
had many adventures as a kid, so I can kind of relate to just a book about adventures. So a couple of quick things that in addition just to the aesthetic or the warmth of the illustrations, I loved it in the book. It just took me back to my childhood and quite frankly to my teaching as well, where
Sure.
I'd be writing on a whiteboard and it didn't quite work out as planned, or I spelled something wrong, or I was writing on the downward slope, and I just got there's little, I don't want to call it humor because I don't know that it's more like authenticity is maybe the better way to say it.
Sure.
It just
Yeah.
um, represents the experience of these kids the stories about. So as far as a book talk goes, some kids set out to squelch their boredom in the summer. They do a lemonade stand, as a lot of kids try, I guess, or at least
Yeah.
I did growing up. And then once they made some money, they realized they wanted to do something with it that made a difference other than just padding their piggy banks. So
Sure.
they, that went through the process again and donated the money, and it was just a huge showing from their community. So I love the story. I love the picture. I'm going to mention Zach Bauermeister. Oh my gosh, I butchered his name. I'm so sorry, Zach. Zach B. Is that
Yeah.
allowed? No.
It's totally loud, but I just have to say that Bauermeister sounds legit to me. So I wouldn't
Okay.
have known that you didn't think that was the correct pronunciation if you hadn't said so.
Yeah, and when I interact with Zach like on social media and stuff, it's always just Zach. So I don't
Yeah.
think I've ever said the last name out loud. But Zach and Olivia wrote what I think is just really a heartwarming story, and I'm trying to zoom
Yeah.
in on their names so you can see it.
I love
And
it.
again, the pictures, I thought they were just good really throughout. And that's one of the things I love about a picture book in addition to the story. So for all of those reasons, I would recommend you check it out right now.
I love that. Well, I'm gonna break protocol today because I have several books sitting next to me that I was trying to choose from. And I thought I'm gonna wait and see what Brad does, and then maybe that will help me, like my heart will lean towards one book or another, depending on what you share. And that has definitely happened. But I want to break protocol by just showing really quickly the three other books that were potential runners up. Okay.
Love it.
I
Love
won't
it. Love
give
it.
I won't give a book talk. I'll just quickly share them. And I'll just say that I love all of them. And so any one of them could have been my choice. The first runner up was Just What to Do by Kyle Lukoff and Hala Taboub right there. It's a picture book from 2024 that I'm absolutely in love with. No book talk though, just a teaser. The
Looks
second,
amazing. And what was the title? I know you're not book talking, but what was it called
it's
again?
okay. It's called Just What to Do.
Okay.
And you can
It has a
kind of infer.
gravitational pull to it.
Yes, I love it. I mean, Kyle Lukoff is one of my favorite humans,
Mm.
period. So I love his books so much, but that particular book is very sweet. I also almost chose The Shape of Lost Things by Sarah Everett. And for those who are watching this, you might be familiar with Sarah Everett's previous book, The Probability of Everything, which was really a blockbuster last year. This is her new one, and I really loved it as well. And then the last one I almost picked was Every Story Ever Told by Amy Polanski. Look at that cover, Brad. I mean, it's just so, so beautiful.
The cover's amazing, but the title is also very intriguing. It has me wanting to read the book.
I think you should. I think you would love
Okay.
this book. Honestly, I
Okay.
really, really do. Of all the books on my list, apart from the one that I am going to book talk in just a second, this would
Mhm.
be one that would go on the Brad Gustafson shelf in my heart. So
Mm.
there's that.
Mhm.
Okay. But the book I ended up choosing as a result of your book talk was because the book that you shared, you kept talking about having a lot of warmth and some details that were authentic, etc. I'm not sure if those were the words I would use to describe the book I'm going to share, but they're the words that fill my, like the feelings in my heart that I get when I read this book, even though
Mm.
I might not describe it that way in a book talk.
Mhm.
The book is called Chronicles of a Lizard Nobody by Patrick Ness and Tim Miller. Some of our 3.5 viewers might recognize Patrick Ness's name. He's a world-renowned, many award-winning author of books for young adults. This is his first middle grade book. Tim Miller is another world-renowned, very well-known illustrator, and he's drawn the illustrations for this sweet little book. This book is one of those like perfect middle grade books that does two things that you might think are sort of opposite, but that actually, when combined, make it perfect. It's like the chocolate and peanut butter like combination. Separately wonderful. You might not think they go together, but once you've had them together, you can't think of, they're perfect. They're the chef's kiss, right? This book is about a group of lizards, our hero being named Zeke, who have all started sixth grade together. And the story opens when Zeke, Daniel, and Alicia have all been given the solemn duty of being a hall monitor, which their Principal Wombat, assures them is not because they all just happen to be monitor lizards. She says, no, that's a coincidence. There's no connection whatsoever. And Zeke isn't super excited about being a hall monitor, but once he's on duty, he starts to see why the job's kind of appealing. He gets like a sash that says hall monitor. He gets to skip some of his classes so he can be out in the hallway checking on other students, and he gets the authority of being able to tell those other students to get to class or they're going to be reported to Principal Wombat, right? All of that sort of goes awry, though, when the school bully and wannabe supervillain Pelicarnassus, who you guessed it, is a pelican, stays in the hall in between classes and refuses to go, saying he can't imagine any one of those lizards being able to make him do anything. Things go from bad to worse when he calls Zeke fat, and Zeke punches him square in the beak. Now, Principal Wombat isn't having any of that. And I can imagine, as a principal yourself, you would not be too excited about your students fighting in the hall. So she forces Zeke to apologize to Pelicarnassus in front of the whole school.
Mm.
Pelicarnassus, though, doesn't accept the apology and plots to destroy Zeke and his friends and the entire school. Because again, Pelicarnassus is a supervillain or a wannabe supervillain. Now, all of that happens in the very beginning of the book. So the rest of the book is the hilarity of Pelicarnassus trying to destroy Zeke and his friends, and Zeke coming to terms with the fact that he might actually be a hero after all. Now, that's sort of the silliness of the book. It's got this plot that kids are going to love. It's hilarious. It's got all sorts of kid jokes and these fun illustrations. But it also does this magical thing of helping readers understand grief and what it feels like to be bullied and how to navigate a school environment where maybe there's a hierarchy based on socioeconomics and you find yourself at the bottom. All of these really serious issues are woven through this funny, light, and delightful story in a way that helps kids, gives kids kind of a safe place to explore them. So I love this book with my whole heart. I think it's so funny. I think kids are going to love it, especially kids who love books that have a little bit of illustration in them as sort of a bridge between, say, graphic novels and full text. I wanted to show one illustration really quick before we sign off. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, this is the one right here. During Pelicarnassus's plot to destroy Zeke, he develops a giant robot pelican suit. And here's the illustration. I think this reminds me of you so much, Brad, because I feel like this is the type of illustration you would create too. Kids are going to love this book so much. It's called Chronicles of a Lizard Nobody by Patrick Ness and Tim Miller, and I think you should read it right now.
So good. And that hence the power of a book talk, because it looked like a great book. And then I hear you talking about it. I just literally can't wait to read it and get it. That is so cool. And
It's
how many
great.
different animals or characters are in this school? I heard you say wombat, pelican, lizard. Are
Yes,
there
there are
more?
all sorts of them. Like the
Okay.
lizards and the birds are sort of like the top and the bottom of the school social like hierarchy.
Mm.
Birds are like top of the food chain because they can fly. And to quote the book, they never let anyone forget it that they can fly, right? And then lizards are sort of at the bottom, but there's lots of animals in between, and they have such fun
Oh my God.
personalities. It's great. It's so great. It's just
That's
a
so
lot
cool.
of
It
fun.
sounds unlike anything I've ever read. So thanks so much for sharing it. Love
Can
it.
I say one last thing? Is that I think this is one of those rare books too that kids like in third, fourth, fifth, and then all the way up to maybe even seventh and eighth grade would love, which is kind of
Mm.
rare for a book to have that huge span. So,
Hmm.
all right, friend.
One puzzling thing that I always wonder, because I read these books for enjoyment for myself and to connect with kids on some level and other readers, but why do we, like I heard you say maybe up to seventh and eighth grade, but is that maybe the target audience? Because certainly a high
Sure.
schooler or a principal could read them for enjoyment too, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think I think where this is my mind about that question. I think
Yeah.
most kids, when they're reading, they sort of like to read up. There's a feeling of maturity when you're reading about books that are about just someone who's just a little bit older than you. They're kind of like
Hmm.
aspirational, you know? That's why a lot of upper elementary school kids really like to read books that the target audience is maybe more middle school. And for teachers and librarians, we have to like perform that magical artistry of figuring out books that will appeal to kids who are wanting to have those grown-up experiences or those older reader experiences, but that are also developmentally perfect for those readers. So I think kids, I mean, I would have loved this book in the 10th or 11th grade, but
Yeah.
not a lot of 10th or 11th graders, I think, want to read books where the protagonists are in the sixth grade.
Gosh,
Like
that makes
there's,
so much sense.
yeah.
You are
So,
so smart always, Jen.
well, I try.
Yeah.
I try.
Well, thank you for elevating my thinking.
Thank
Always.
you, friend. Now, we've struggled to find time to record this year, but we're still keeping our archive active and uh, maintaining our webpage where all of our videos are located. Where can our 3.5 viewers find those?
Definitely go to readthisnow.net
Yes.
for, dare I say, hundreds of books over the years,
Oh, yeah.
organized by year, and just so many good highlights. I do peruse it from time to time, sometimes with purpose, because I'm actually looking for something or someone's asked me a question, but sometimes just out of nostalgia to think about the books we've read and talked about and get new ideas. So it is a wonderful resource.
I share it all the time. Thank you, my friend, and thank you to our 3.5 viewers. We'll see you next time. Until then, happy reading, everyone.